So today we've invited 3 guests who are currently working on AI in media, and I'd love to introduce them right now. First, we have Damian Ramos, Director of Analytics and Reporting at DirecTV. Thank you, Damian. Sir, please. Gauthier Demond, Vice President of Global Sales at StreamRoot. And Harry Lang, Vice President of Product at Hallmark Labs. So I think what's really interesting about these 3 different companies and what's happening in the entertainment industry is that AI is being used in many different ways, probably more than you can even imagine. And these 3 gentlemen and their companies are using it in very different ways as well. So I think it would help with context to just take a moment and say a little bit about what your company does. And then after we get a good idea of how you fit into the vertical system of the entertainment industry, we'll dive in a little bit about how you're using AI today.
All right. Okay, thanks, Robbie and Globant. In our case, we take really seriously the thing of, there is something in science, in computer science, that says when you put garbage in the system, you will receive garbage as well. So in business, every attempt, every analysis, it takes time, and a good way to approach things is by, you don't have to be afraid to test and to see the results after test and learn, and it's like a virtuous circle. But in order to avoid variability and all the sources of variability, it's good to have good data. So we put a really good emphasis on that, and we learned that the best way to address good data is by putting the data as visible as possible, and let the company query it so they can see what's going on. They can find the problems of the data, because you will always have problems. I mean, the systems are not perfect. Some people put their fingers on it and sometimes change things. So it's good to be as open as possible. And then, as Wikipedia does, you will have like a lot of correctors over that data that with time will create a reliable source. So that reliable source is something that will help in other things like doing more sophisticated analysis, using data-driven to take decision over the company and so on. So our first, and this is like something that I always sound a little messy in this, but I push on this, but I always insist that data quality matters, and you should do it as fast as possible, so align with the business needs. And in order to do that, you also need to leverage the power of analytics and convince people that it's very important and easy to use analytical tools over this clean data. So that's the approach we mainly do, and well, we are looking forward to improve it.
That's great. And Gauthier, your company is one of the more unique ones, and I think it would be really interesting to take a moment to describe what your company does and how it affects the user experience.
Sure. So StreamRoot is a video technology company that basically allows OTT platform, live and on-demand video platform, to deliver video not from servers, but from other users watching the same content at the same time. So it's the same technology that you use every day with your Spotify or your Google Hangout or your Skype. It's called WebRTC peer-to-peer. And it's basically applying that notion to live events and OTT libraries and making sure that people can enjoy the highest experience, streaming experience, by having the video delivered not from a server in Miami or in the United States. That's going to be really far and it's going to take a long time to get the video to you, but from other people in your building, in your neighborhood, in your ISP network, watching the same content at the same time as you are and sharing that content with you. So when it comes to our use of AI, basically the way we improve that QoS, that quality of service, the way we improve that streaming experience is by finding the right people to connect to you and who you're going to connect with, right? And that's why we use AI. Today we are serving 20 million unique viewers per day on our platform, and we feed the information about that users into our system. What platform do you use? What video streaming experience do you have? What bitrate are you watching? Are you watching HD or SD? What internet connection do you have? And so on. And based on that, we can create profiles so that the next time somebody connects that has the same computer as you have, that have the same ISP provider, that has the same bandwidth available, we're going to know exactly what are the key people, the most efficient people to connect you with so that we improve your video streaming experience.
Very interesting. I definitely want to dive more into the details there. I think everyone else does too. And Harry, coming from Hallmark, I learned yesterday that Hallmark has its fingers in more than I ever imagined. And so I'd love to hear a little bit more about how it's connecting, how you're connecting the dots and using AI to improve your user experience.
Sure. So I'm with Hallmark Labs, which is a division of Hallmark Cards. And as you may know, Hallmark Cards is a over 100-year-old greeting card company. Our division is responsible for bringing this 100-year-old family-owned greeting card company to the future, in digital ways to reach our consumers. And at Hallmark Labs, we have several ways that we're doing that. One is I oversee the product and user experience for our streaming movie and TV service. It's sort of like a Netflix or Hulu, but it's from Hallmark. So it has Hallmark movies, Hallmark TV shows, and also we license in other movies and TV shows that kind of fit that same mentality, that same brand. We also have digital greeting cards, and we also have print-on-demand service that we're building. So we're building new products and innovating in new products. So from my perspective, we've built out this streaming movie service over the past 6 years, 5 to 6 years. It has undergone several iterations, and in the last 3 years, we've really built out the distribution, so it's available on pretty much every streaming platform that you can watch on. And it's been rebranded now as Hallmark Movies Now. And one of our key goals is to deliver an experience that our consumers want. There's a certain level of trust that they have with the Hallmark brand. So we want to deliver on that and make them feel that they're getting something that they can't get anywhere else. And we do offer a very unique service that is unlike a Netflix or a Hulu. We're not trying to be that type of service. We have a very specific audience. And so for us, on the AI side, it's important to be able to deliver them a personalized experience. That's something that's really big in our space right now. And so we're developing our own technology internally to power this, our own personalized engine. We are able to create these profiles of our users based on historical purchasing data that we have, so we can kind of put people based on their habits and their browsing habits into a certain profile. And one of the things that we're doing right now is we built an internal beta test, a proof of concept to prove out this technology that we could leverage into our movie service as well as other products that we have. And you're right, we do have a breadth of products, not just what we work on at Hallmark Labs, but Hallmark in general.
And in this POC and in exploring AI, what have you learned? How are you using the what you've discovered in relation to AI, something that you may not have predicted? Have you seen something that you didn't know was going to happen, something good or bad along the way?
Well, we really had no idea what was going to happen with our proof of concept because everything we had was just data up to this point. It took several years of putting these profiles together. So all that existed was actual data. There was no way to actually prove that these profiles that were created could actually predict a user based on their likes and dislikes. So we didn't know what was going to happen, and we did a test. We created an iOS app and an Android app, and sent out invitations to all of Hallmark. There's about 7,000 people or so, and we had people participate in this test, and we were really surprised that the test was constructed to be a very simple shopping cart for greeting cards, digital cards, and we had people sign in, and they took a little profile assessment, and we would, based on what they were kind of greeting card they were looking to send, we recommended cards to them from the card line. And our goal was to try to serve cards that we think that person would want. And we were pleasantly surprised that it was working as we expected. So we ran the test in various waves and tweaked some of the algorithms, and we're able to really fine-tune it to be a successful test, and now we're to continue working and building upon that test to develop this even further for future integration into all of our products.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And Gautier, how do you monitor the machine learning and use that data to constantly improve your offering?
So there are several things we do. We basically right now with the Mundial, the World Cup, hopefully France will beat Argentina in the final. I'm sorry, but basically,
I don't think so.
Well, yes, I know. Basically, what we're doing is there's twofold. There's one thing that we do. We try to learn about the users, and the users really is trying to find who's going to be the most efficient at sharing content with you. It can be, we had some surprise, for example, if we're neighbors, we're living on the same street, but we're not using the same ISP, internet provider, you're not going to be possibly the optimum connection to share video with. We're going to have to go a little bit further, but stay within a network. That's some of the things we learned. And then overall on the technology, we typically try to implement profiles per users, and we try to change our technical configuration. One of the biggest surprise we had using that AI platform and machine learning was when it comes to peer-to-peer, people have that idea of file peer-to-peer, BitTorrent and other platforms. And if you use those services in the past or even right now, you see that the more connection you have, the more efficient you're going to be, right? If I download a file that has 1,000 people sharing it, it's going to be faster than if there's only 10 people sharing it. When it comes to live video, live or on-demand video, and in our case, our technology doesn't have any extra latency to the streaming experience, so we have a short time frame to work with. What we realized, processing all that data, is that actually the more users we were adding in the peer-to-peer pool to share content with you, the lower the performances were. Because if we offer you to get video from 1,000 different persons, your machine, your computer is going to have to work really hard to open connection with those 1,000 users. It's going to take resources and it's going to degrade your video streaming experience. So that was probably one of the biggest surprises we had, that there was a sweet spot. Today, a few tens of users, that was perfect. That was the optimal configuration between a ratio of choices of peers to get the video content from, as well as not degrading the video streaming experience by overloading your machine with too many connections.
That makes sense. It's really interesting. And Damian, how is DirecTV, what's the biggest thing that you've discovered in your use of AI?
Oh, well, that's actually pretty funny. Because, at some point we wanted to think about creating content from analytics and the usage of big data. So there are some signals on our package that are sports signals, and actually I presented at it was in 2015, the Copa America. He said on the air, well, someday I want to hire some scientists and put them to work with artificial intelligence and so on, and discover my point, that is, when there is a cold climate, there are less goals than a hot climate. So he said that, and I took the phone, tried to reach the guy and say, hey, I'm offering us to work on this with the team of friends because it sounds really interesting. So we gathered all the data from different parts of the world, different leagues, and of course the climate data, which was the harder to find. And at the moment of producing a model based on EA, we see some kind of behavior that tends to be less goals when there is cold than when there is not. So there was this match of Argentina against Paraguay in Chile. It was a very cold day. So he said on the air, well, my scientists are saying that this match is going to have 0 or 1 goal match because of the weather. And guess what? Higuain scored a lot of goals. So actually, other guys as well. So it was 7 goals in the game. And we learned that some things cannot be predicted if you don't have enough data, less, or real-time data, because in soccer, I believe, you need to have a lot of variables, contextual variables, and put them together to build something that matters. If you just rely on all modeling and that kind of stuff that is yet old-fashioned, it's not enough. So we learn our lesson, and we respect soccer much more now.
So what's next for DirecTV with AI? And what's on deck if what we're talking about now is phase 1? What's phase 2?
Well, phase 2, as I say, phase 1 is very related to data quality, and bring to the company data-driven decision process very clear. And that this implies training for the people, a lot of tools available, and a lot of cultural changes and top management support. So the second part of that is, well, you're already investing money on this process. And somebody mentioned, I think it was Chema at some point, that there is an evil person in the company called the CFO and finance department that always is asking for return, and he's right about that. So data is not deception, and in the efforts when you are trying to grow and become more data-driven, you should put that at the north. So it's very easy to lost in the analysis and say, this is very cool, yeah, but it doesn't pay our bills. So we have to dig deeper in situations where we are going to retrieve some money. And there is actually a framework for that, and simple part, or to describe the framework very easy, is you need to have very segmented objectives so you can see if you are reaching them or not. And actually, you have to be always looking to prove how the return of the investment on what you are doing is going to come. And there are some situations, and I have one right now that is related to the information that you get from the boxes and can produce some ratings. There is actually information that can become a product itself, as a data product. The guys mentioned that before, that data has a value itself. We all know that, and you can create a P&L structure around that and actually have revenues for the very beginning or some point of make a sustainable business. So that's the approach we are taking now, and also try to bring the best experience to our customers using the information we know about them, their interactions, and what they watch, etc. So, because customer experience is also another bullet that pays a lot. A promoter customer is always better for you and treats you better than a negative customer. So, we try to have all promoters.
And Harry, what's next for you guys? What does Hallmark have on deck for AI?
Well, for the streaming movie service, Hallmark Movies Now, our next step is to take what we learned in our proof of concept and adapt that into our service as part of our own unique recommendation system. I think what you're seeing a lot in the industry right now in our space is a personalized homepage. If you go to Netflix, you see rows of because you like this, because you watch this, movies like this. They're all based on things that you're watching. It's really where our industry is going. So right now we have people manually programming feeds, category feeds of movies, which is still important in some regards of what we want to, for programming. But essentially, the goal should be an individual coming to the service should have their own unique view of what's available. And it should be based on what they're watching. But also, our goal is not to just base it on what our customer is doing on our service, but across all of Hallmark. Hallmark has, Hallmark.com, we have, retail stores, we have Hallmark Channel, we have Crayola, we have all sorts of, various touch points that our Hallmark customer can interact with us. So we want to be able to create a unique profile of that customer as they're interacting with various, businesses and various storefronts to understand what they're like, so that if somebody is browsing for a wedding card on Hallmark.com and they're also one of a subscriber to Hallmark Movies Now, we may want to present movies about weddings or something about weddings to them, knowing that they have some interest in weddings. And I think that type of personalized behavior and understanding of our consumer is something that's wouldn't be as alarming to our consumer, because it's really based on, their interaction with Hallmark itself. It's not based on things they're doing off other sites on the web or anywhere else. It's really kind of taking what they're already looking for from Hallmark and giving them more of it in a unique way, in a personalized way that feels special to them.
No, it makes sense, and you were saying it's such a trusted brand, and the idea of giving information and that trust is so important. I think that's a theme that we've seen.
It is. It's something you don't want to break, ever.
Absolutely. Actually, Gautier, that brings me back to you, and I think one of the first things I think of when I think of peer-to-peer is, whoa, you're going to do what with my phone? Like, I don't know if I'm okay with this. I know that it is legitimate, and I know how trustworthy what you're doing is, and I wonder how do you communicate to the user that this is something that's actually going to benefit them?
Well, I think the premise of the creation of that company by our three founders was really around, there's an issue today, there's a structural issue with the internet when it comes to video delivery. You've all seen the failures of large live events like the Super Bowl, like the Olympics, like the Golden Globes. Or if you were in the US and you try to watch the season finale of Game of Thrones, it was impossible to watch for 30 minutes. Because the internet was not designed basically to handle such large peak of traffic, and were not designed to have millions and millions of viewers watching the same live stream. So our solution, basically, the way we explain that to users as well as customers is we're one of the solutions that's going to help fix that. We're not the only solution. I think the global solution will come from several companies, which can talk about the future of AI and so on, codec optimization, things like that, but we're one of the bricks of that overall solution. And basically what we're saying is that our technology will leverage some of the asset that you have, but overall what we're going to do is that, one, we're going to allow you to watch a perfect live or on-demand event without having to wait half an hour and seeing on Twitter that that guy was killed on Game of Thrones and that guy got raped or whatever, and it's terrible and you know everything before you watch the actual episode. Number two, what we're going to do is that we see the effect already on our technology with data science. We see the effect on our technology on two main metrics: rebuffering ratio and bitrate watch. That means when you use our technology on top of your current video architecture, you're going to see basically that the rebuffering ratio of your viewers is going to go down by double digits, and double digits of the users are going to be able to watch a higher quality than what they were able to watch without us. So basically, the premise of the company is it takes a little bit of sharing to have that perfect streaming experience that everybody is looking for. And I think, you know, there's nothing more frustrating. I mean, I was trying to watch the Olympics, I could not watch. At that time, you say, like, will you sell me one of your kids and you can watch the French guys? I'll be like, well, yeah, here's my daughter, take her, it's perfect. So I think right now we're in a model where people, in the past, there have been issues with peer-to-peer, but now people see that as a legitimate problem when it comes to streaming on the internet, and that we're part of the solution. So it's always a conversation to have. Peer-to-peer obviously has a legacy of poor usage, you know, BitTorrent and Emule and all those pirate platforms, but now we're seeing quite a lot of big tier one broadcasters using our platform. And I think at the end, when you explain to the users that they're going to have a much better streaming experience thanks to that technology, they're just cool with it.
I agree. So I know we don't have a lot of time, but I thought it would be fun just to kind of run through really quick and just what is the coolest use of AI that you've observed in our industry, in the media space right now? So maybe we can just quickly go through and...
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, it's actually something that blew my mind at some point that I saw, I think they are doing in Thailand, but I try to do at home. So actually there is, I think it's possible using some sensors to perceive the wave waves as well as some physical changes and do an experiment on how the content you are watching can change what you're feeling, right? If you see a horror movie, what happens with you? Do you stress and then you relieve? So I think it's actually possible, and it's very close to produce these changes in people through the content you are offering to them. So let's say to make something that works in the opposite way, that you have a device that can understand how you are feeling and then can work as a recommendation engine to tell you, well, do you want to feel better? You are sad, you look sad. Do you want to feel better? Watch these movies. Okay, and I think that kind of stuff is possible, but not yet, because the devices, the commercial devices that they are now in the market, that is something that you can bundle with maybe a box or a Roku device or whatever, have not the ability yet to perceive enough variability from this signature. So when I try my homemade experiment, I couldn't modulate this thing, but I try, and I think it's possible, and it's just a matter of the future to develop these devices. So it would be pretty cool to enter your house and say, hey, I want to rest, so which is the content you recommend me, and based on how I feel.
That's awesome. I would like that.
Yeah.
Gauthier?
On our side, really, the thing that blew our mind at StreamRoot within the last few months was that notion of using AI for picture reconstruction. So the idea that right now, you're seeing 1080p, you're seeing 4K videos coming along on streaming platform, on Netflix and so on. And as soon as you want a higher quality, there's a higher bit rate, so there's more load on the network. We've seen use of AI where basically the video service is going to send you a terrible rendition of the video stream. Really pixelated, really poor quality, but really low bit rate. So it gets to you really fast. It's a really poor quality. And then you're going to have an AI software inside your computer, inside your video player, who's going to artificially improve the video quality of the video streams as you're playing it. So you receive a terrible quality stream, and your computer is going to compute all of that and make it look like an HD picture automatically. And we were talking about the different part of how to fix the internet problem with video. That's another solution. And I think as we go along, there's going to be other things. But if you put all of those one after the other, you're finally going to get that TV-like streaming experience, which means that you just click on it and it works. There's no buffering, there's no wait time, and you have a perfect streaming experience.
It's very cool. Harry, what's the coolest thing you've seen?
It kind of gets back to the personalized view. I think the coolest thing that is happening in the streaming services is that ability to determine what that user wants to see presented to them every time you log in. And it may be different from day to day, but I think delivering somebody an experience that's unique to them is not what some people, managing a CMS might think you might want to watch. Is a very unique way of providing a personalized homepage. So that ability to continue learning and determining what that user wants is something that's really fascinating to me and something that I really want to be able to bring to our users as well.
Well, I think we've just hit the tip of the iceberg on our industry. I know it's affecting so many parts, but thank you so much for joining today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.